Welcome back to the program. Before we took a break, we were discussing on the verbal cues during a negotiation. Mr. Sergon, I would like you to take us through the characteristics that an entrepreneur should embrace during a negotiation.
There are quite a number of characteristics that must be embraced by an entrepreneur who is negotiating, but we'll just mention a few because there are quite a number. Now, the first one is that an entrepreneur who negotiates must be a very good listener. You must listen to get the cues about the other partner or the other negotiator. You need to know what is their feeling, so you must be very good in listening. Number two, you must be having an eye for checking the body language, as my colleague has put it. So that if you see somebody is crossing his arms like this, that is an indication that he's not willing to negotiate. So you need to really be very, very keen on how to read the body language of this person. In so doing, you'll be able to really understand the trend of the negotiation. Thirdly, you need to really have that ability to manage your emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a very important thing in management nowadays. So as an entrepreneur, you need to really gauge how you react, how you manage your temper, how you read the emotions of the other partner, so that if your negotiator helps the tempo, you need to really calm down a bit, so that you really try to check him. Otherwise, if both of you will move up, then it will not be a negotiation. It will be sort of a confrontation. So you must have that kind of fellows. Another issue is that a negotiator who is good must be open and flexible, but yet very firm. So you could be open to ideas, open to maybe concessions. You should be willing to change the goalposts, in terms of flexibility, but then you must be firm on what you want. So if you are going to maybe a negotiation table, maybe you are dealing with trade union officials as an entrepreneur, you must really have your offer, and you need to be firm on why that offer should be undertaken. But then you should also set your benchmark. That's why at times you'll realize maybe one party is calling for 300%, another one is calling for 20%. But you see they'll arrive at maybe 30%. So the other parties must be willing to really give and take, so that we have this. But generally, I think leadership qualities are very important for an entrepreneur. You must be a person who has the ability to rapidly process information as you receive. You, a slow thinker, may not be able to really negotiate well. You need to have somebody who can capture information from the other party, process it very fast, and then offer the response. That's why it calls for even people who are very witty. Witty persons can be able to really deal with that easily. So generally, I think those are some of the characteristics of good negotiators, or effective negotiators, so to speak.
Dr. Nashuma, are there preparations to be done before going for a negotiation?
As we have said before, Regina, negotiation is about an outcome. And for you to realize the outcome that you anticipate, then you must prepare. In this regard, entrepreneurial preparation towards a negotiation entails that you must have a clear goal. What is it that you want? What is the purpose of engaging in this entrepreneurial negotiation? That must be clear in your mind. And secondly, you should not just have one goal. You must have alternative goals, and that takes us to the realm of options in entrepreneurship. You must have alternative goals. Thirdly, you must be organized. You should know what should come first, what should follow, and what should be the basis for conclusion. Equally, you must ensure that in the preparation, you do your homework, you get ready, and you get everything in place. You get the evidence that if you are challenged, you can give supporting evidence to say, yes, this is the position. And you do that, you definitely be ready for entrepreneurial negotiation, and you are likely to get a favorable outcome.
Mr. Sergon, for the sake of an entrepreneur who is watching the program right now, what are the negotiation tips that you can advise them to have?
One of the cardinal tips that an entrepreneur has to appreciate is believing in himself or herself as a negotiator. Don't underestimate your negotiating skills. What you need to do is that do your homework, as my colleague has put it. Identify the goal that you want to achieve. Gather the relevant information, and then you should be ready now to negotiate. So don't fear negotiating. Don't fear negotiating. Number two is that you should not really be intimidated by the status of the negotiatee. If the other person is only maybe a senior position or something like that, believe in yourself. that status is nothing, because what matters are the facts that you put on the table. So if you're negotiating maybe with a fellow who is likely to offer you maybe serious business, believe in yourself. Let him not really intimidate you, because at times you are likely to be compromised in terms of pricing, and therefore maybe you'll not be able to break even. Others should not also be intimidated by the kind of information the other fellow has, because information that you have will suit your position. His information or our information will suit his or our position. So believe in that information that you have, so that you don't really have a situation where you have this. And don't imagine that the negotiator has information about your weaknesses. They are not really privy to what you know. So you need to really have that, so that you have this. But finally, and more importantly, is that you need to card your information on the negotiation table. You must always have what you call the last card, which you will bring. So don't really expose maybe your strengths from the word go. At least you must be systematic in offering the concessions one after the other. But you must have a position, what we call a best alternative to negotiated agreement. That's where now you know this is actually my bare minimum, that I cannot go below this. So you need to have some kind of issues. But generally, we advise entrepreneurs to improve their skills in negotiating.
Just to wrap up what we've been discussing in the program, Dr. Nashima, what are the common mistakes that negotiators do in the process?
There are a number of mistakes that negotiators could make in the negotiation process. And some of these mistakes could include lack of preparation, like we have said before, lack of a proper orientation, lack of ability to control your emotion and temper could jeopardize the negotiation process. Sometimes we talk too much and listen too little. Other times we translate a negotiation into an argument or a quarrel instead of trying to influence the other party. So as we have said, negotiation is about strategy, and you need to understand the other party. You need to look at the verbal, communication of the other party. And if you don't do that, then definitely you are making serious mistakes in the negotiation process.
Gentlemen, as we wind up the program, could you just mention something on the state of the nation, and especially on the corruption? That is the major thing that we are really fighting at the moment. And again, I would also love you to also let us know your opinion in regard to the Pope's coming. Like the other time when Irene Nyadha was being beautified at Nyeri, entrepreneurs were really complaining that they invested so much into other things, but the expectations were not met.
Maybe before I comment something on the Pope's visit, I want to just perhaps maybe call upon entrepreneurs to really sharpen their skills on negotiation. That when you negotiate, you are likely to get more business, you are likely to penetrate maybe newer markets, you are able to maybe to acquire maybe cheap raw material, and therefore it's a strategy that you can use to actually innovate in your business. So we expect them to really sharpen their skills. Now with regard to the Pope's visit, as you have alluded, the previous event, that was beatification of Irene, most entrepreneurs really complained about not doing business. But you realize that in a situation where we have numbers, there is always a business.
Sure.
People must feed, people must sleep, people must do everything else. But you see, the strategy maybe applied then was that it didn't really consider the pockets of the attendees. So you need to know what you're offering and the economic capabilities of those fellows who want to consume your product. Because if you them, these are pilgrims, they may choose maybe to have maybe a tent. So you can set a tent, have some mattresses, say this is for men, this is for boys, this is for women, and you'll make your money still. But the challenge is that maybe we are not able to really scan that opportunity appropriately. So much so that we engage in maybe some businesses which are not really related to this. So we expect entrepreneurs to really focus. I know even members from the oldest profession will be in Nairobi to look for business. Sure. It's normal, but still you need to know the kind of event and provide the right business opportunity. The right business that can really benefit from the same event.
Okay.
Yes, we can say that the Pope's visit is going to create new entrepreneurial opportunities that must be exploited. But in our face, corruption is sharing. And I want to say that corruption basically is an evil that kills the entrepreneurial spirit and therefore dims the light for national prosperity. But before we really tackle this menace of corruption, there are a number of things we need to accept. That corruption creates misallocation of resources. It creates disparity among the people of any given country. And hence, it is a vice that ought to be dealt with appropriately. But before we deal with it, we need to understand some basics. What are the risk areas regarding corruption? What is the moral fabric, the status of the moral fabric in this country, and how can we change it? And that will go back to the basic education, for example. Are the young people learning appropriate values? Are the old people disseminating appropriate values to the young people? Are our leaders conducting themselves in a manner that is an indicator of morality? Apart from doing that, we need to institutionalize, create systems in the manner in which we operate, and also recognize the important role of natural justice in, for example, formulating and implementing regulations. Because if we make them so hard, then people will want to go around them. And the implementers will take advantage of that. So in a nutshell, we can say corruption, it kills the entrepreneurial spirit.
Thank you so much for staying with the Entrepreneurial Spark program. I've been your host, Regina Kinyo-Orlando. Let's meet again next Wednesday, same time. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with me.